Welcome back. This video serves as an objective forensic analysis of the legal proceedings in the People versus Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari. Our focus is strictly on the trial record, the evidentiary timeline, specifically the critical 19-hour gap that became a focal point for jurors, and the legal arguments presented by both the prosecution and the defense. We are examining how these factors culminated in the final verdict and appellate outcomes. Let's look at the evidence that defined this case.
I believe I'm being unfairly charged and being made an example of for my very strong faith.
Seth Welch, 27, and Tatiana Fusari, 28, were a couple living in Michigan. They were raising 3 children at the time of the events in question. The youngest, Mary Welch, was a 10-month-old infant. In 2014, local family services initiated a process to transition the 2 oldest children out of the couple's care. This decision followed a screening that identified the presence of certain illegal substances in their eldest child's system at the time of birth. The incident. On August 1st, 2018, Tatiana departed for her place of employment, leaving the children in the care of Seth. Throughout the day, the infant, Mary Welch, was kept in her crib. Seth maintained that the child remained asleep for the duration of his supervision. According to statements provided to investigators, the parents placed the child in her crib at approximately 3:30 p.m. It was not until 10 a.m., the following morning, a span of roughly 19 hours, that the child was checked upon again. It was during this check that Tatiana discovered the infant was no longer breathing. Following the discovery of the infant's passing, the couple waited approximately 90 minutes before contacting emergency services. By his own admission, Seth Welch reached out to legal counsel for guidance prior to seeking professional medical assistance. When speaking with the emergency dispatcher, he used notably detached language to describe the child's condition. The recording of this interaction reflects a profound absence of emotional distress, which stands in stark contrast to the severity of the situation.
How long ago did you find this child?
It's about an hour and a half. I was waiting. I called my lawyer first thing to ask, what's the next thing I could do. And they said, wait till they're here to call, the police and get that going. Basically, it got to the point where I was waiting so long, I just kind of went ahead and did it anyway. And we were almost here, so I was waiting on legal counsel.
So you found the child an hour and a half ago?
Yeah.
And called your lawyer first, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other children in the home right now?
Yeah. Because I didn't know if I was supposed to call the police or not. I had no idea what to do.
Okay. We will send someone out. We're going to investigate. When was the last time you had contact with a child?
Last night, yesterday afternoon, about 3 p.m. She goes to bed, and that was that.
Okay, so you put her to bed yesterday at 3 p.m.?
Yeah, and then this morning at 10 something, we finally went in to check on her. Like, okay, it's been way too long, so she sleeps this long all the time normally, so.
So you're saying it is normal for your children to sleep from around 3 p.m. till 10 a.m.?
Usually about 9:30, yeah. So.
They sleep from 3 p.m. to... I'm just typing in a couple things here.
Sure.
What time do they usually have dinner?
Oh, well, that's my infant. They're not all... They don't all kind of run on the schedule, but she basically eats and, she's up for a half hour after that, and then she goes down for bed.
Okay. And how old are the other children?
4 and 2.
There's 2 other children?
Yep.
And they're at home right now, right?
Yep.
And you said when you found her, she was already believed to be deceased, right?
Yes.
And that's when you consulted with a lawyer?
Yep.
Do you believe she was beyond help already?
Oh, yeah. She was dead at the door now.
How are you old enough?
It's another day, right? It is what it is.
Later that same day, Seth published a public statement regarding the loss of his daughter on social media. His message read as follows: My heart is shattered right now. Woke up to find Mary unresponsive in her bed this morning. This evening, our remaining children were removed and placed under a no-contact order, as we are being painted as the worst parents ever. Thankfully, they are with their grandparents. I am completely numb. I am currently being held in isolation by law enforcement and government officials, who keep assuring me they are here to help. The investigation. Upon entering the residence, authorities discovered the infant in a state of severe neglect. The environment was characterized by poor sanitary conditions, with the child resting on a mattress that was heavily soiled and showing signs of environmental contamination. Furthermore, the interior of the home was described by officials as being severely unhygienic, cluttered with refuse and infested with pests. A responding officer noted the physical state of the infant upon arrival, describing her appearance as severely emaciated, with facial features that were deeply recessed. Forensic analysis indicated that the infant had likely been unresponsive for at least 3 days prior to the emergency call. Furthermore, reports regarding the home environment noted a complete lack of basic hygiene and care during the final days of the child's life. At the time of her passing, Mary Welch weighed only 8 pounds. Despite being 10 months old, her physical development was consistent with that of a newborn. A medical examination officially determined the cause of death to be acute malnutrition and prolonged dehydration. When confronted with the findings of severe physical deprivation, Seth Welch denied any wrongdoing, stating, "We were providing nourishment, including chicken, potatoes, apples, and cheese. We were offering her adequate sustenance. She passed away. It is a tragedy. The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away." Tatiana similarly maintained that the child was fed on a regular schedule. In a recorded interview, she stated that she had no concerns regarding the infant's nutritional intake. She claimed to have breastfed the baby 4 to 6 times daily on her days away from work, and asserted that the child was provided with commercial infant formula on the day preceding her passing. To account for the child's significantly underdeveloped physical state, the parents claimed she had been unwell for several weeks. When questioned as to why he did not seek professional medical intervention, Seth replied that he viewed such help as potentially hazardous. He further stated that he had never taken his other 2 children to a doctor, arguing that they remained healthy without conventional care. Seth Welch held deeply unorthodox, radical convictions. Following his arrest, investigators noted various homemade signs displayed on the property. Shortly thereafter, his online presence and video materials surfaced, detailing his extremist religious ideology and a profound, fundamentalist skepticism regarding the medical establishment.
So I think if you believe in evolution, it's basically bad doctor practice right from the beginning because, well, just give them drugs, it'll evolve, right? They'll just evolve and adapt to it. If you see my videos, I was a guinea pig of the, mental health pharmaceutical industry when I was a kid. So I'm not opposed to medicine or doctors. I'm opposed to bad medicine and doctors that are just, that aren't really doctors. They're just like, they're almost just, they're priesthoods of the medical cult that says, they got this test score, but that doesn't mean that they know, about the human body and stuff like that. None of my other, Mary and John both haven't had their vaccines. I don't think John's been sick a day in his life. The kid is a little machine.
Charges. Following the investigation, Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari were charged with felony murder and first-degree child abuse in connection with their daughter's passing. A specific clip from this interaction, capturing his reaction when informed of the severity of the charges, gained significant attention online, with millions of viewers witnessing the moment his composure briefly faltered.
And I want to reiterate the fact that this baby did not die because of one missed meal. This is weeks and weeks. This isn't about being very skinny. This is about being dead. In Solon Township, that you're both charged with what they call felony murder while in the perpetration or attempted perpetration of child abuse in the first degree. They're alleging that you murdered one Mary Welch. That is a charge called homicide felony murder. It is life without parole. It requires a DNA sample to be taken upon arrest, which is often like a cotton swab or in the inside of your cheek. The second offense that you're both charged with is called child abuse in the first degree, where they're alleging you knowingly or intentionally caused serious physical harm to a child. They're talking about this Mary Welch. It is a felony, possible penalty of up to life imprisonment or any term of years less than life. Now those are the 2 separate felony charges.
During the lead-up to the trial, a reporter conducted an interview with Seth Welch while he was in custody.
Oh, I was very shocked, and I went to my cell, and I cried, and I cried, and I laid down flat on my face, and I just cried out in prayer. I could tell from looking at Mary, I could tell because her skin was gray, her cheeks looked sunken, like they weren't when we put her to bed. I knew she was dead. She just died, sir, and we provided everything for her, and we have all the evidence to prove it. I believe I'm being unfairly charged and being made an example of for my very strong faith and the trying times that are ahead. It's dangerous to take your kid to the doctor's office these days.
The trial. Both parents underwent evaluations to determine their legal competence and were ultimately deemed fit to stand trial. While the initial defense team explored an insanity plea, Seth Welch opted to dismiss them in favor of new counsel. Tatiana pursued an independent defense strategy, engaging her own legal representation. As part of her strategy, Tatiana requested that medical examiners screen for parvovirus, a pathogen known to cause significant dehydration, suggesting it as a potential factor in the infant's condition. Because this request required additional forensic analysis, her trial proceedings were deferred, allowing the case against Seth Welch to proceed first. An official autopsy concluded that the cause of death was acute malnutrition and dehydration resulting from a failure to provide basic care. Seth Welch rejected these findings, stating, "I believe I am being unfairly charged and am being made an example of due to my personal convictions." During the proceedings, defense attorney Charles Clapp acknowledged that the parents avoided hospital care for the infant due to their ideological beliefs. Clapp argued, "Ineptitude and misguided beliefs do not equate to criminal child abuse." Prosecutors highlighted a significant inconsistency in Seth's defense. During his time in custody, he sought and accepted professional medical treatment. This was presented to the court as evidence that his alleged fundamentalist distrust of the medical establishment was not a deeply held, consistent conviction. Furthermore, the prosecution argued that the infant had been subjected to deliberate nutritional deprivation, positing that the child was neglected because she could not contribute to the labor required on the family farm.
How would you feel? You are imprisoned in yourself because you don't have the energy to move. She didn't have the energy to even put up her arms, and she didn't have the energy to cry. Don't tell me you didn't know that. And don't tell me you didn't intend that because you didn't get her little tush out of that crib. You left her in there. You ignored her because she was an inconvenience.
And Seth is at home with 3 children, trying to do farm work, trying to take care of the house, trying to be a father, and he just can't do it.
You saw the pictures of the house. He's not working on the house. He's not cleaning. He's not working in the fields because they're all overgrown. What is he doing that he is so overwhelmed?
Regarding the forensic requests, testing confirmed that neither Tatiana nor the infant had been infected with parvovirus. Subsequently, Tatiana initially entered a no-contest plea to avoid a life sentence. However, she later withdrew this plea to proceed to trial. During her defense, Tatiana centered her strategy on shifting culpability entirely onto her husband. She alleged that she was a victim of domestic coercion, testifying that Seth prohibited her from entering the infant's room and threatened her with physical violence. Tatiana characterized Seth as an individual driven by control and intimidation, describing a pattern of behavior where he monitored her actions through constant communication and unannounced visits to her workplace.
And he takes the AK out of the closet and he brings it. He tells me to get on my knees and he puts the gun to my head.
Tatiana's testimony further detailed a pattern of psychological and spiritual coercion. She alleged that while she was pregnant with their 4th child, Seth subjected her to a forced exorcism, describing it as another instance of his need to exert total control over her and the household.
He was reading verses from the Bible as he was taking his open palm and smacking me in between my shoulder blades on the back over and over and over again, hard enough for me to keep flinching at every time he hit me. And he was just saying things like, "Demon be gone."
I walked over to her and I saw that her eyes were open, but she wasn't responding to me. So I checked her pulse. I didn't feel anything. I went
to go get Seth, and I told him, Seth, there's something wrong with Mary. There's an emergency with Mary. I thought maybe she was ill, and I didn't know about it. I didn't know. We didn't take her. I wasn't allowed to take her to a doctor. If she had some sort of virus or some sort of. I did not know what was wrong with her.
You told Officer Holly that you had gave her oatmeal in the morning.
Yeah.
Do you still say that today?
Yes.
Even though, again, the autopsy stated she had not had any food for days, or solid food for days.
I know that I fed her and nursed her.
Let's talk about the nursing.
Did you love Mary?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Did you starve her to death? Did you kill her?
No. No.
Why did you do CPR on Mary?
Because she wasn't responding to me calling her.
Did you do anything else in addition to the CPR? Did you attempt mouth to mouth?
After I wiped her mouth, yes. I was pumping her chest with my fingers, and then I would breathe into her mouth, and then go back to her chest, and then back to her mouth. Just over and over and over again. I put Mary back into her crib, and I tuck her in, and I put a hat on her because she was cold, and I did not want her to be cold anymore. And I gave her polar bear.
At this point in time, why do you think Mary had passed? Why do you think she died?
At that time, I didn't know. I thought maybe she was ill, and I didn't know about it. I didn't know. We didn't take her. I wasn't allowed to take her to a doctor. If she had some sort of virus or some sort of. I did not know what was wrong with her. My fear has not helped anything. I just don't want to be afraid anymore. I was afraid for my life all the time.
To address Tatiana's claims of domestic coercion, the prosecution introduced her initial statement to the county sheriff, recorded prior to her arrest. In that early interview, Tatiana did not report any instances of abuse or control by her husband. When cross-examined regarding the infant's severe state of malnutrition, Tatiana maintained that she had provided consistent nourishment. However, when questioned on the appropriateness of leaving an infant unattended for 19 hours, she responded affirmatively, stating yes. The sentence. Throughout both trials, the most significant evidence presented by the prosecution included the recorded emergency call and the forensic documentation regarding the condition of the infant.
Expressed or shown any emotions regarding Mary's care or ultimate demise.
Her head was turned aside. There's drool come out the mouth. She had a long sleeve, like a onesie on. There's a blanket that was covering her lower portion.
The final witness you'll hear from is the medical examiner. And he's going to tell you that her cause of death was malnutrition with dehydration because of the neglect of her adult caregivers. Her manner of death was homicide.
She was prevented from caring for her child the way that she wanted to. Threatened to kill her, and he would beat her up.
There is testimony that both parents believed that their child was fine. The child was skinny, but not sickly. They were breastfeeding the child. These two young people are not nutritionists. They're not dietitians.
And I want to reiterate the fact that this baby did not die because of one missed meal. This is weeks and weeks. This isn't about being very skinny. This is about being dead.
On the count of felony murder, count 1, guilty of felony murder as charged. On count 2, guilty of first-degree child abuse as charged, and consistent with the instructions that the jury was given, there are no other boxes that are marked. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm going to ask if all of you collectively would please listen carefully to me I'm going to ask you to respond out loud collectively to my next question. Was this and is this your verdict?
Yes.
All right.
Seth Welch was found guilty of first-degree child abuse and felony murder, resulting in a mandatory sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. Tatiana Fusari was similarly convicted and received an identical sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. In his remarks prior to sentencing Tatiana, Judge Paul Denenfeld stated, "This is a deeply tragic case. I am not certain that I will ever fully understand the mindset of these parents. Ultimately, they stood by and watched their child succumb to starvation." The couple's surviving children, including the infant born while Tatiana was in custody, were placed into the adoption system. The court issued a permanent ruling prohibiting any future contact between the children and their biological parents. Final legal developments. Since their initial convictions, both defendants have sought to challenge their sentences through the appellate court system. In 2023, the Michigan Court of Appeals reviewed Tatiana Fusari's conviction and ultimately affirmed the lower court's decision, upholding both her guilty verdict and life sentence. Similarly, Seth Welch pursued a petition for federal habeas corpus in 2025, arguing that his legal representation was insufficient. However, the U.S. District Court denied his petition, ruling that the original trial evidence was more than sufficient to sustain his conviction. As of mid-2026, all major appeals have been exhausted, and both individuals remain incarcerated with no possibility of release. Thank you so much for watching this video until the very end. If this investigation resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive. If you're interested in more cases that demand justice and answers, take a moment to explore the rest of the library here on Evilman. Your support helps us continue to shed light on these critical stories. Thanks for being part of our community, and I'll see you in the next one.